So I had sent you the notes, and I discussed this integration of these rational functions uh, involving the reals, and then I gave this more general result, which is very straightforward to follow. So I don't want to. So I sent you the notes, so I don't want to discuss it today. Let us not discuss it. Hopefully, this was all right for all of you, and you have seen this kind of uh, integrals of generic type of type 2, and so this is all right, I guess. And in case you have any questions, you can send me later. So so there are a few home assignments problem. Did you try doing these problems at home? Hello.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, tell me.
no, sir, not these ones, but I did the previous 14 ones.
Previous. Okay, 40. Yeah, no, that's okay. I just asked. I know that it's not possible in this short period of time to do all this. I just wanted to know how much you have done. That's all. Thank you. But hopefully you have seen this more general result of this rational function, integration of the rational functions. If go through it, it should not be a problem, I guess. So today do in the same direction, we will do improper integrals involving rational and trigonometric functions. So let me discuss it actually. So the type of integrals which we will be discussing is of the type fx cos alpha x dx or fx sine alpha x dx integration minus infinity to plus infinity in the principal value sense, of course. I discussed yesterday. Where alpha x is a rational function which is continuous everywhere in the real line, and alpha is a non-zero real number. So these are the types. So naturally, if you remember the discussion in previous class, we can we will consider this. Say for example, we consider this kind of an integral. Okay, and let me just mention here that we will not write this PV from now on, because writing every time it's difficult. Okay, so integration minus infinity to plus infinity cos 3x x square plus 4 dx, or yeah, like that. So it's like as I discussed, it's limit r tending to infinity minus r to plus r, the symmetric integration of this quantity. Now, from the discussion yesterday, you remember last class, that we are tempted to try to express the integral over minus r to r as a complex contour integral, close the contour, and use the residue theorem. Okay, and then try to get the result of this real integral. Okay, improper integral. Notice, however, that we cannot use the function cos 3z by z square plus 4 that you were doing, right? We were taking it to the complex plane. But because of the fact that mod of cos 3z is not bounded, we know, for large values of imaginary z, we have discussed sin z cos z in the complex plane. And you know that for imaginary z, you have this sine hyperbolic, cos hyperbolic appearing, and so it is not bounded, mod of cos 3z. So instead, we notice that we can write the integral as a real part of a complex integral, and this complex integral is this. Okay, so we can consider this instead. So what we will do, we will in general, so for example this one, so it is a real part, right? Cos 3x plus I sin 3x, we just take the real part, so you will get this cos 3x thing. So in general, we shall compute integrals of the form minus infinity to plus infinity fx e to the power I alpha x dx. So this is the type 3 integral that we will be discussing, where alpha is a non-zero real number. Now, this is a class of integrals. In order to evaluate integrals of this type, we shall prove a lemma, which goes by the name of Jordan lemma, So let us first discuss the Jordan lemma, and then we will proceed. So Jordan's lemma tell us that let gamma denote a capital gamma denote a semicircle in the upper half plane, which means imaginary z greater than equal to 0. It's a semicircle of the complex plane of radius r. So it has a radius r and centered at the origin. Okay. So this is a gamma. Okay. So radius r centered at the origin, the upper half plane. So let fz is, so remember, so let fz is analytic in the upper half plane except for a finite number of poles, and fz does not have a singularity on the real line. So these are the type of functions that we are going to discuss. And another thing is that fz tends uniformly to 0 with respect to argument z as mod z tending to infinity, when argument z lies in the interval 0 to pi, okay, because we are considering this semicircle in the upper half plane. So it tends uniformly to 0, meaning whatever value of argument z you choose, fz tends to 0 as mod z tends to infinity. So this is the condition. These are the conditions for discussing Jordan lemma. So remember that when you apply Jordan lemma to this class of integrals, you have to verify all these properties, and then only you can apply Jordan's lemma. Okay, so whatever integral is given, you just verify these properties first. You don't have to prove Jordan lemma to apply this, but thing is that you have to show that all the conditions are satisfied, and then you apply Jordan's lemma. Okay, very good. So then, if alpha is real and alpha greater than 0, then limit r tending to infinity IR. Remember what is our IR? IR is given by this. IR is limit r tending to infinity integral over gamma z, gamma r e to the power I alpha z prime f z prime dz prime. Now you see that we have to, so this is the Jordan lemma which we have to prove. So first let me just reiterate again. So these are the conditions for Jordan lemma, and then if alpha is real and alpha greater than 0, so that's why we have actually taken the semicircle in the upper half plane. So the Jordan lemma tells that limit r tending to infinity IR, which is defined as this is equal to 0. Okay? So that we have to prove now. So the proof. So let us go to the polar coordinates for the proof. So write IR in terms of r and theta. So it is along gamma r. So radius is capital R. So f is f capital R e to the power I theta, and it goes from 0 to pi because it's a semicircle in the upper half plane. And so z equal to r e to the power I theta. So that means dz equal to r e to the power I theta d theta. So r d theta I have written here, and e to the power I theta I have included in the exponent. And if you take z equal to r e to the power I theta or z prime, then you have you find e to the power I alpha r cos theta here, and this will be to the power e to the power minus alpha sin theta, and then from dz e to the power I theta comes. So I have taken everything here. So this is the integral in the polar coordinates. And as according to the hypothesis, fz tends uniformly to 0 as r tending to infinity. That means what? That means mod of fz must be less than equal to, it should be actually less than equal to some epsilon r, where epsilon r is some positive number. Okay, so which depends on only r, because fz tends uniformly to 0 as r tending to infinity. It doesn't depend on the value of argument here, so which depends on r only, so, and which tends to 0 as r tending to infinity. So that is the thing. So that satisfies the condition that mod of fz tends to 0 or fz tends to 0 uniformly as r tending to infinity. So that means this integral, if you just get an estimate of this integral IR, So that should be less than equal to epsilon r times this r comes here, and the mod of this thing is coming. So the face part e to the power I alpha cos theta plus I theta, that part goes away. We are taking the mod. So you will get mod of IR less than equal to epsilon r times r integration 0 to pi e to the power minus alpha r sin theta d theta. Now we know that sin theta is symmetric about theta equal to pi by 2. So if that is so, you know, we can write this integral from 0 to r as 2 times integral 0 to pi by 2 to the power minus I alpha e to the power minus alpha r sin theta d theta, because of the symmetry of the sin theta about theta equal to pi by 2. So this 2 epsilon r times r is outside, so it is 0 to infinity, 0 to pi by 2 e to the power minus alpha r sin theta d theta. So now you see that if you just plot sin theta and this quantity to theta by pi, you will be able to see very easily that in the range theta is between 0 and pi by 2. Okay, this value of sin theta is always greater than equal to 2 theta by is greater than equal to 2 theta by pi. Okay, is within this region theta between 0 and pi 2. So if you just use this result that sin theta greater than equal to 2 theta by pi and theta is between 0 and pi by 2, it's easy to see. You can just plot 2 theta by pi and sin theta in this region, and you will be easily you'll be able to find it very easily that is satisfied. So from this, using this result, you see that mod of IR less than equal to twice epsilon r times r 0 to pi by 2, and then here I have used this sin theta is greater than equal to 2 theta by pi, so that I have used here. So that is equal to 2 alpha r theta by pi d theta. So this integral one can do easily, and that gives us the result that 2 epsilon r, so our mod of IR is less than equal to 2 epsilon r times r, and this gives us in this limit 0 to pi by 2, 1 minus e to the minus alpha divided by 2 alpha by pi. So that's a straightforward integration. You can do it easily. So that is essentially the result, that mod of IR is less than pi epsilon r by alpha times 1 minus e to the power minus alpha. So that means in the limit r tending to infinity, when this term goes away, so what we get limit r tending to infinity mod of IR is less than equal to pi by alpha epsilon r. So that means in the limit r tending to infinity, since epsilon r goes to 0, that means that limit r tending to infinity IR mod of IR also goes to 0. So that means limit r tending to infinity IR is also equals to 0, which is limit r tending to infinity integration gamma r to the power I alpha z prime h z prime d z prime. So this is the Jordan's lemma, and that we will be using in order to evaluate integrals of the kind that I discussed, cos mx by x square plus a square kind of thing, integration dx minus infinity plus infinity. So you see that in this in the proof of this lemma, we use alpha greater than 0, but if alpha less than 0, the lemma remains valid, provided the semicircle gamma r is taken in the lower half of the complex plane, and provided fz tends uniformly to 0 for argument z. Now, since in the lower half it is between pi and 2 pi. So that one has to remember that in both way, alpha greater than 0 and alpha less than 0, the lemma remains valid, but you have to appropriately choose the contour either in the upper half plane or in the lower half plane. So in many applications of this type, you'll have to choose it judiciously. So therefore, we see that the improper integral, that 14.7, which is this actually, that we want to do, and we want to take the real part of that. The improper integral 14.7 is given by considering the residues of the function hz equal to fz to the power I alpha z at the poles in the upper half plane alpha greater than 0, or in the lower half plane if alpha is less than 0. So So considering the figure above, the figure that we have seen here, so you see that the integral becomes integration C, where C is this closed contour composed of the straight line segment on the real axis between minus r and plus r, and the semicircular contour gamma r in the upper plane. So Hz, as I said, it is fz e to the power I alpha z. So that is actually the integral along this real line minus r to plus r, and then integral along gamma r fz e to the power I alpha z. And according to the Cauchy residue theorem, this is equal to 2 pi times the poles zk for the poles which are in the upper half, imaginarily zk greater than 0. You have to calculate the residue of this function hz. Hz is defined as fz e to the power I alpha z, okay, at those poles for alpha greater than 0. Okay, so in the limit r tending to infinity, we can of course this is the integral minus infinity cos infinity fx e to the power I alpha x dx in the limit r tending to infinity, and we know that in the using the Jordan limit r tending to infinity IR, this is just the IR that we have discussed, and that goes to 0. So that means this integral, real integral fx e to the power I alpha x dx, that is equal to twice pi times the residue of this function h at the pole zk in the upper half. So, and similarly for the case of alpha less than 0, we have a minus sign there because it's in the lower half plane, so it is actually in the going in the clockwise direction, so negatively oriented. So using this, let us calculate this example, integration minus infinity to plus infinity cos of mx by x square plus s square dx. M is greater than 0, because m is like this alpha that I discussed earlier. So obviously the function hz here, this hz, okay, that one has to take like the following. It should be e to the power I mz by z square plus s square, and that is our fz e to the power I, m greater than 0. Therefore, we have this quantity in integration minus r to plus r, just look at this quantity, e to the power I mx by x square plus s square dx, integration along gamma r, e to the power I mz z square plus s square dz, that is equal to twice I pi I times the sum of the residues of the function hz at the pole zk in the upper half. Now, you see here that mod of fz is mod of 1 by z square plus s square, and using the triangle inequality in this form, mod of z square plus s square greater than equal to mod of z square minus s square equal to mod z whole square minus s square, that is equal to r square minus s square. So that means mod of fz equal to mod of 1 by z square plus s square, so that is our fz here. That is our fz here, 1 by z square. So the mod of fz is this. So that should be less than equal to 1 by r square minus s square, and that tends to 0 as r tending to infinity uniformly without depending on argument also. So so fz satisfies this condition that we discussed in the for Jordan limit. So limit mod z tending to infinity fz equal to 0 uniformly. So you can use Jordan lemma, and we see that limit r tending to infinity IR equal to 0, where IR is integration along gamma r to the power I mz by z square plus s square dz. So that means what? That means in this real integral to the power I mx by x square plus s square dx along minus infinity to plus infinity, that is equal to twice pi I sum over the residues over the poles or the poles at the poles. So the function hz, which is 1 over z square plus s square, you can easily see that it has simple poles at z equal to plus minus ia. And since we have closed the contour in the upper half plane, because m is greater than 0, we can see that only the pole z equal to plus ia contributes in this residue. So let us calculate the residue of h at the pole plus ia. So that is equal to limit z tending to ia, z minus ia, e to the power imz divided by z plus ia times z minus ia. So that is equal to, you can verify easily, e to the power minus z equal to ia through e to the power minus ma divided by twice ia. So residue we have got. So what we can do, we can just take I0 equal to integration minus infinity plus infinity to the power I mx by x square plus s square dx, and that is equal to 2 pi I times e to the power minus ma by 2ia. This is the residue, only one residue. So that is equal to pi by a to the power minus a. So the original integral that we wanted to evaluate, that is real part of I0. So that is integration cos mx by x square plus s square dx. So that is equal to pi by a e to the power minus m. And you can of course see that if you do this integration sin mx by x square plus s square dx, it comes out to be 0. So that is also. So this is the type 3 integral that we wanted to discuss using this Jordan's lemma. And remember that you have to verify first that the Jordan's lemma is applicable in this context and then apply it. Now we will do another very interesting type of improper integrals, poles. So this is the type 4 integrals, improper integrals. So far we have considered, you see, contour integrals of function in two different cases. In the first case, the integral was taken along a curve inside and on which there were no singularities of the function. This led us to Cauchy's theorem. And we saw that this is equal to the integral c f z dz equal to 0. In the second case, the boundary curve enclosed but did not go through some singularities of the function, and this led us to the theorem of residues that we discussed so far for the last few hours starting yesterday. So there remains to be considered the case when the path of integration actually passes through a singularity of the integral. So far we have not encountered any integral where the path of integration actually passes through a singularity of the integral. Of course, remember in this case, strictly speaking, the integral does not exist. When the path of integration encounters a singularity, integral strictly speaking does not exist. So we want to give it a meaning. So one must choose a path that circumvents the singularity. So we shall show that the result of the integration will depend, in this case, on how the path is chosen to avoid singularity. So you have to somehow avoid, you have to circumvent the singularity. And we shall restrict ourselves to the case where the singularity is a simple pole on the real axis for the time being. Later on we will discuss branch cut and other things if possible, if time permits. But we shall restrict ourselves to the case where the singularity is a simple pole on the real axis. So suppose that we want to compute the principal value integral, integration minus infinity to plus infinity sin x dx in the sense of principal value. The integral, of course, we can see that it should converge because the singularity at x equal to 0 is removable singularity, right? We know that. So that the integrand is continuous for all x. So in the principal value sense, it should converge. Now, following the discussion in the previous section, we would write that I equal to imaginary I0, where I0 equal to e to the power ix by x dx. That is what we did earlier. We took the real part because it was cos x, but now it is sin x. So I0 is principal value sense in the principal value of integration minus infinity to plus infinity to the power ix by x dx. And we just take the imaginary part of I0 and we should get it. But as soon as we try to do it using Jordan's lemma that we discussed just now, we now notice that the integrand of I0 has now a pole at x equal to 0, because earlier it was sin x by x, so it had a removable singularity at x equal to 0. But now it is e to the power ix by x, and because this is entire, so you see that this is a pole at x equal to 0. So until now we have always assumed that the integrands are no poles along the contour. So the method developed until now are not immediately applicable to perform the above integral. So if you just want to do it, just take principal value to the power ix by x dx, and then you just take the imaginary part. It will not work because there is a pole now, x equal to 0, there is a simple pole along the contour, okay, because you want to do r tending to infinity, because you want to do it from minus infinity to plus infinity, but you cannot immediately apply the techniques that we have learned. So we therefore need to make sense out of integrals where integrands are not continuous everywhere in the region of integration. So you want to understand the meaning of this kind of integral. So in order to understand this, let us consider in general that fx be a function of a real variable which is continuous everywhere on the real line except at the point x0, and we define the principal value integral in this case by pv minus infinity to plus infinity fx dx as limit r tending to infinity and epsilon tending to plus 0. By epsilon tending to plus 0, I mean that epsilon approaches 0 from above, that is, when you take the limit, epsilon is greater than 0. We will see why it is that. So, limit r tending to infinity, epsilon tending to plus 0. So, integration minus r to x0 minus epsilon. Remember that this function is continuous except for this point x0. So, x0 minus epsilon fx dx plus x0 plus epsilon, integration x0 plus epsilon to r fx dx, and we take the limit epsilon tending to plus 0 and r tending to infinity. Provided, of course, the limit r tending to infinity and epsilon tending to plus 0 exists independently. And note that epsilon approaches 0 from above. Now, it turns out that the principal value integrals of this type can often be evaluated using the residue theorem. So the residue theorem applies to closed contour. So in computing a principal value integral, we need to close the contour, not just r2 minus r as in the previous section, but also x0 minus epsilon to x0 plus epsilon. Look at this figure, because function is not continuous at x0. So somehow we have to close the contour in computing the principal value integral. So we'll close it from minus r to plus r or r to minus r. Also, not only for that, but also from x0 minus epsilon to x0. One way to do it, to consider a small semicircle which I denote as s epsilon of radius epsilon around the singular point x0, as in the figure. So this is one way. So this is the way we can do it. So this is called indenting the contour around the singularity. So singularity is at x0 on the real line. Now, because we are interested in the limit epsilon tending to plus 0, see, this has a semicircle has a radius epsilon. So that is why, as I said, you have to take the limit when epsilon is epsilon tending to plus 0, that is epsilon greater than 0. So we'll have to consider the integral what? Integration along s epsilon fz. Okay. Limit epsilon tending to 0 plus. Now, so we have to evaluate this integral now, and we have to learn how to do this. Now, when the singularity of fz at z equal to x0 is a simple pole, this integral can be evaluated using the following result. So we will first state the result, and then we will see the proof of that. So let fz has a simple pole at z equal to x0 on the real line, and let this a epsilon here I have shown be the circular arc. So this is a circular arc a epsilon, as in this figure, and it is parameterized by z theta equal to x0 plus epsilon exponential I theta. That means the radius is epsilon and it is centered around x0. But theta is between theta 0 and theta 1. So this is our theta 0 and this is our theta 1. So this is our theta 1, and theta 0, and this is our theta 1. So theta is greater than less than theta 1 and greater than theta 1. So this is the thing. So you have to evaluate the integral limit epsilon tending to plus 0 along this small circular arc a epsilon of fz dz, and this result tells us that the result will be I times theta 1 minus theta 0 residue of f at x equal to x0. So this is the result that we will prove, and this we will be using in the evaluation of the integral that we have discussed. So since we are talking about the semicircle here, okay, that means for the semicircular case, the result will be limit epsilon tending to plus 0, integration over the semicircle s epsilon fz dz should be equal to minus I pi residue f at x0. Pi, because theta 1 minus theta 0 for the semicircle is pi, and minus sign comes because you see that here it is in the clockwise direction, so it is negatively oriented, so there is this minus sign. So this is the result that we have to prove. So let us try to prove this result. Now we already mentioned that fz has a simple pole at x0. So that means if you just do the LoRa expansion of fz in the punctured disk z minus x0 less than r, mod of z minus x0 less than r less than greater than 0 in this punctured disk, because there is a pole at z equal to x0. It should be of the form what? It's a simple pole. So it should be, so the principal part has only one term, a minus 1 divided by z minus x0 plus the analytic part, which is this. So if you just define this analytic part as gz, so this is an analytic function in the disk mod of z minus x0 less than r. Okay. Now let us consider that epsilon is between 0 and r, okay, and consider the integral fz dz along this a epsilon. Epsilon is this, okay, and remember assume that this epsilon, this radius is between 0 and capital R. So if that is so, then integration along this a epsilon, this circular arc fz dz will be what? So this will be a minus 1 along the circle, integration along the circular dz by z minus x0 from the first term, and then of course this is an analytic function on the disk mod of z minus x0 less than r. So this is this integration along a epsilon gz. Now gz is analytic. So in particular, it is bounded on some neighborhood of x0, so that mod of gz is less than equal to some m for some m greater than 0, and for all mod of z minus x0 less than r. So then we can estimate this integration of this analytic function gz, okay, along this a epsilon. So that should be less than equal to mod of gz mod of j. So this we have already done, this Darboux inequality thing, and that should be less than equal to m and the length of the curve. And we know that length of the curve is epsilon times theta 1 minus theta 0. So this is the length of the curve, assuming that theta 1 and theta 0 they are sufficiently small. So this is the length of the curve that we get. So this is this. So that means in the limit epsilon tending to 0, integration along a epsilon, this analytic function, that goes to 0. Now on the other hand, we know that integration dz by z minus x0 along a epsilon is z minus x0 is epsilon to the power I theta. That is the way we have parameterized a epsilon. Remember, that is z minus x0 is epsilon to the power I theta, and dz is epsilon I to the power I theta d theta. So if you just cancel this epsilon to the power I theta, it is I integration d theta between theta 0 and theta 1, because you are doing it along a epsilon. So that means that is equal to I times theta 1 minus theta 2. So that means what? That means if you take the limit epsilon tending to 0 plus 0, what do you get? You get that integration along a epsilon fz dz is I theta 1 minus theta 0 times a minus 1, because you see a minus 1 coefficient was there in this integration, and then plus 0, because the integration along along a epsilon of the function gz, that gives you 0. So that means what? The integration along a epsilon fz dz in the limit epsilon tending to plus 0 is I times theta 1 minus theta 0 residue of f at x0, because you know that a minus 1, the coefficient of the first term in the principal part of the Laurent expansion of fz is the residue of f at x equal to z. So we have to remember this, that, and we can easily see that for the semicircular arc, since theta 1 minus theta 0 is pi, we can write it as I pi residue of f times x0 that we discussed, and if it is along the anti-clockwise direction, a clockwise direction, there is a minus sign. Now, having discussed this basic theory, let us go back to the original problem, the computation of the integral I0 given in 14.8. So let us look at it once again. So our 14.8 is this. We have to calculate this integral principal value minus infinity to plus infinity for ix by x dx. So we have got this result, that remember that result, that limit epsilon tending to 0 integration a epsilon fz dz is I theta 1 minus theta 0 residue f times f comma x. So this is what this was our I0, which is limit r tending to infinity epsilon tending to plus 0 minus r to minus epsilon, because in that case x equal to 0 is the singularity, so that's why it is only minus epsilon here, e to the power ix by x dx plus epsilon to r e to the power ix by x, which for finite r and non-zero epsilon can be understood as a contour integral in the complex plane along the subset of the real axis consisting of the real intervals minus r to minus epsilon and epsilon to plus r as shown here. As shown here, so minus r to minus epsilon and epsilon to plus r. This is the part of the contour. And in order to use the residue theorem, we must close the contour. The Jordan lemma forces us to join r and minus r by a large semicircle gamma r of radius r. So this is a large semicircle in the upper half plane. And in order to join minus epsilon and plus epsilon, we choose a small semicircle, as I showed earlier. This is epsilon, also in the upper half. So this is the way we choose. So this is the contour, minus r to minus epsilon. Then I close it through this semicircular arc, and then epsilon to plus r, then this large r from r to minus r. The resulting closed contour, this is shown here. Now, because the function is analytic on and inside the contour, because we have the singularity is here, this is analytic, the fz is analytic on and inside the contour. The Cauchy integral theorem says that the contour integral vanishes. And of course, Cauchy residue theorem also tells the same, because there is no singularity, so residue will be 0. So the same result applies from both the theorem. So splitting this contour integral into its different pieces, we see that it is integral along minus r to minus epsilon, then along the semicircular small arc s epsilon, and then epsilon to r, and then gamma. This is along first along this, and then along this, and then along this, and then. And then in the complex plane, of course, we are doing the integration, so it is e to the power iz by z dz, that is equal to 0. And this remains true in the limit r tending to 0 and infinity and epsilon tending to 0. And of course, now we can use Jordan's lemma. The integral along gamma r vanishes in the limit r tending to infinity, right? And we see that this fz, which is 1 by z, it goes to 0 as mod z tending to infinity, of course. So everything applies perfectly. So you can use Jordan lemma directly. The integral along gamma r vanishes as in the limit r tending to infinity, and then using 14.10, which is this or this result, that integration along the semicircular arc is minus I pi residue of f at x0. So we directly use that because we have proved the result. So we get I0 is principal value of integration minus infinity to plus infinity to the power ix by x dx, which is limit r tending to infinity epsilon tending to plus 0, minus r to minus epsilon e to the power ix by x dx, plus epsilon to plus r e to the power ix by x dx. And that is equal to, from here, this will go on the right hand side with the negative sign, so that is minus limit epsilon tending to plus 0 along S epsilon, the semicircular small r, e to the power iz by z dz. So that is epsilon tending to 0, integration along minus epsilon e to the power iz by z, because I have just taken along minus epsilon to absorb the sign here. And if it is along minus epsilon, we know that the result will be I pi times residue of f at 0, and you can easily calculate the residue of f at 0. So that is, of course, at z tending to 0, limit z times e to the power iz by z, z cancels, so it is equal to 1. So what do we get? So we get I pi residue 0 equal to I pi, the residue 0 of this function e to the power iz by z, that is equal to 1. So what we got? We got that limit r tending to infinity, epsilon tending to plus 0, minus r to minus epsilon to the power ix by x dx, plus integration epsilon to r e to the power ix by x dx, that is equal to I pi. So therefore we get what? We get that principal value, because if you take the limit e to the power ix by x now and epsilon tending to 0, we get what? We get that integration minus infinity to plus infinity, and if you just take this e to the power ix by x dx and e to the power ix by x dx here, so we get principal value integration minus infinity to plus infinity sin x by x dx, and that is equal to imaginary I pi, and that is equal to pi. So what we got is principal value, which is coming from here, e to the power ix by x dx, that is equal to I pi, that we have got. And if you just take the imaginary part of this, so you have to take the imaginary part here, so you get pi here, and if you take the imaginary part of this, you will get sin x, it from e to the power ix, you will get sin x. So you get the result that principal value integration minus infinity to plus infinity sin x by x dx, that is equal to pi. But we have to show that actually integration 0 to we have to also get a result that integration 0 to pi by 2 0 to infinity sin x by x dx, and we will see that how to get that, because remember this is also equal to this integration limit r tending to infinity epsilon tending to plus 0 minus r to minus epsilon to the power ix by x dx plus epsilon to plus I to the power ix by x dx. So if you just make an appropriate change of variables in the first integral here, take x goes to minus x. If you just take x goes to minus x, the integration limit will change from epsilon to r here. So, and this will be e to the power minus x, and dx will be minus dx, so there will be a minus sign coming here. So this integration now will be limit epsilon tending to plus 0, r tending to plus infinity, integration epsilon to r e to the power ix minus e to the power minus ix by x dx, and that is equal to I pi. So just doing this appropriate change of variable, and you know that this result, this is equal to sin x, and then of course there is a I factor coming. So if you just do it appropriately, what you will get? You will get integration 0 to infinity as epsilon tending to plus 0 and r tending to infinity. You will get integration 0 to infinity sin x by x dx equal to pi. So this is the result that we have obtained. So remember that this is of course whatever we have done, this is done in the principal value sense because of the reasons that I discussed. So this was a particular example of this function sin x by x, and to use that, to evaluate that, we use this integration e to the power ix by x dx, okay, integration minus infinity to plus infinity, and we realize that there is a pole at x equal to 0, okay, of that function. So now what we want to do, in general we want to consider the integral principal value integration minus infinity to plus infinity fx by x minus x0 dx, where x0 is on the path of integration, that is it is on the real axis, and fx is analytic at x0 at x equal to x, like the one that we discussed just now, e to the power ix by x dx. But it is more general form now, principal value minus infinity to plus infinity fx by x minus x0 dx. So this means that the singularity is a simple pull on the real axis, since this is fx is analytic. So the singularity here at x minus at x equal to x0 is simple. So as discussed above, we may indent the path and follow the contour which encircle rather than goes through. So this is the path, the singularity at x0. So the encircle the singularity at x0, and this is the path we will consider. The integral along this indented contour can be written as the sum of the three integrals. Okay? One is, so along this indented contour, I denote this integral as integral some kind of indentation, sign of indentation. Like this, I will use the symbol capital omega here. I could not draw any other symbol, didn't get time. So, well, last year, but this was drawn last year. So I have just used this just to show that this is along this indented contour. Okay, fz by z minus x0, because this is now in the complex plane. We have taken this indentation, so that means we have gone to the beyond the real axis. So this is in the complex plane. So we are looking at this integration along this indented contour fz by z minus x0 dz. So that is equal to what? That is equal to what we will do. We will consider limit r tending to infinity, epsilon tending to 0 plus, okay, because we want to eventually look at this minus infinity to plus infinity as we discussed earlier. Minus r to minus epsilon along this, okay. So that is essentially fx by x minus x0 dx, and then epsilon to plus r along fx by x minus x0 dx along the real line, and then limit epsilon tending to plus 0, integration along this semicircular arc s epsilon fz by z minus x0 dx. So this is the way I just break it up, this integration along the indented contour. And we have just seen just now that the integral over s epsilon can be evaluated, and this limit, this thing, epsilon tending to plus 0, this is given by, because this is in the negatively oriented sense, so and clockwise direction. So minus I pi fx0. Remember, the residue of this function is actually at x0 is fx0. Residue of fz by z minus x0 at z equal to x0 is actually fx0. So remember, the result was minus I pi times the residue of f at x0. Remember this result? Just let me show you. So that was essentially this. Minus I pi residue of f at x0. This integral along this integral. So this result we will use directly. That means the integration along the indented contour can be written as this. We know this, we have defined that the limit r tending to infinity epsilon tending to plus 0. This is called the principal value integration in minus infinity to plus infinity fx by x minus x0 dx minus I pi x0. So that means integration along the indented contour fz by z minus x0 dx, that is equal to principal value integration minus infinity to plus infinity fx by x minus x0 dx minus I pi fx0. On the other hand, if you had taken s epsilon below the contour like this way, if you just could close it, then of course you can get the same using the same description that I described so far, that integration on the indented contour. Of course, now this time it is the indentation is in the lower half plane. This will be a plus sign here, plus I fx. So these two equations, 14.15 and 14.16, display the very important point that the value of integrals such as those considered here depends upon the path chosen to circumvent the singularity. In applications in the physical situation, physical problem, physical application, the physical situation will always determine the path that must be chosen. Okay. So you can find its application in many physical problems, like in the context of quantum mechanical scattering and things like that. So we will not discuss the application here, but maybe we can discuss some homework problem later. But let me just not discuss it now. So this is remember that if you, the way you indent the contour, the way you circumvent the singularity, that the final result of the integration will depend on that. Now let us also discuss an equivalent way of getting around the singularity. This is one way to do this. Of course, you just indent the contour and do it. But there is an equivalent way of getting around the singularity. So, and this let us discuss. So, singularity when you have a pole on the path of integration. So instead of lowering the contour, we can always give the singularity an infinitesimally small positive imaginary part. So instead of lowering the contour here, it is equivalent to saying that you just stretch the two ends here. So the contour comes here. This is the one, and x0 remains here. So it is like you just, if the pole was you are given some very small positive imaginary part to the singularity. Okay. So similarly, instead of raising the contour, we can give the singularity an infinitesimally small negative imaginary part. So that is to say, we raise or lower the singularity. We don't raise or lower the contour, but what we do, we raise or lower the singularity. Give a small positive or negative imaginary part, and you just raise or lower the singularity. Let us discuss it in a little more detail. To see this, these are kind of equivalent. Suppose for simplicity that fz is analytic in an environment of the real axis. Okay, so just imagine that fz is analytic in an environment of the real axis, and let us integrate the function fz by z minus x0, where x0 is real, along a path that goes along the real axis and circumvents x0 from below. So circumvents x0 from below meaning this, as in figure A above. So this is the one. Now according to the results derived above, what we have integration along the indented contour fz by z minus x0 dz, that is equal to principal value integration minus infinity to plus infinity fx by x minus x0 dx plus I by x0. So this we have already seen. On the other hand, the contour of figure 14.9a, this A is completely equivalent to the contour of figure 14.9b, which is obtained by stretching out the former contour below the singularity. So that's what I discussed. So you just stretch this contour below the singularity. So this is essentially the same thing. You just stretch the contour. So it is like this. So it is completely equivalent. Now we can write in that case, since these are equivalent, so integration along this indented contour fz by z minus x0 dz, that is equal to limit epsilon tending to plus 0 integration minus epsilon minus infinity minus epsilon to plus infinity minus epsilon fz by z minus x0. These are equivalent. So now I have given a small negative imaginary part here. So minus I epsilon here. Okay. So the limit is now instead of from minus infinity to plus infinity, it's from minus infinity minus I epsilon here to minus plus infinity minus I epsilon. So that's what I have done. And now since it is we have stretched it below the x-axis, so it's in the complex term. So this is fz by z minus x0. So they are same. So we now perform a change of integration variable. So let us assume that z prime equal to z plus I epsilon on the right hand side here. So if you just do that, what you will get? So z will be z prime minus I epsilon. So you will get here f of z prime minus I epsilon, and dz equal to dz prime. So dz prime will come, and z equal to z prime minus I epsilon. So this will be z prime minus x0 minus I epsilon. Now you remember that we assume that it's a small imaginary part that we have given. Epsilon is very, very small, infinitesimally small, and we assume that the fz is analytic in some neighborhood of the real line. Okay, so we have taken very little down. Okay, so here actually you can just assume that since fz is analytic in a neighborhood of the real line, and you have given a very small negative imaginary part, you can just replace this thing as fx, and this just replacing the z prime by x, because now the integral is between minus infinity to plus infinity, because we have done this change of variable here. So when z goes to minus infinity minus epsilon, I epsilon to plus infinity minus I epsilon, z prime goes from minus infinity to plus infinity. So we can just simply replace it by x here. So dx here and x here. Okay. So this goes as limit epsilon tending to plus 0, integration minus infinity to plus infinity, fx by x minus x0 minus I epsilon dx. So that means what? That means the relation that we have discussed now is expresses the equivalence between the prescription of lowering the contour around the singularity, like this indenting the contour, and that of raising the singularity. Because you see, now you have raised the singularity, because the singularity now appears at x minus x0 plus I epsilon, right? X equal to x0 plus I epsilon, there is a singularity. That means you have raised the singularity by I epsilon. So it says the expresses the equivalence between the prescription of lowering the contour around the singularity and that of raising the singularity, which now appears at z equal to x0 plus I epsilon. So the singularity is raised by this epsilon. So comparing this two results, that 14.16 that we have obtained here, okay, this one, and which we obtained for this indenting the contour, and this that we have obtained now, this one 14.18, we see that principal value integration minus infinity to plus infinity fx by x minus x0 dx plus I pi fx0 is equal to limit epsilon tending to plus 0, integration minus infinity to plus infinity fx by x minus x0 minus I epsilon dx. Now you will probably remember that when you discussed Green's function, etc., in electrodynamics or in quantum mechanics, wherever, so you just encountered this kind of integral that you will probably remember. So this shows the equivalence of between the two prescription, and this is a relation that one should keep in mind. Similarly, one can show that raising the contour around the singularity is equivalent to giving the singularity infinitesimally small negative imaginary part, and in that case this is equal to limit epsilon tending to plus 0, integration minus infinity to plus infinity fx by x minus x0 plus I epsilon. So its singularity appears now at x0 minus I epsilon. So it's lowering a small negative imaginary part that we do. So these are the two important results that has many applications, and you have already physics students probably have already encountered all these things in various contexts like electrodynamics and quantum mechanics. Now let me discuss another very important class of integral, is the Gauss integral, and that also again you have encountered many times in physics context and also in computer science. So Gauss integral is also very important. So let us discuss this Gauss integral in the context of our complex analysis course. So what we have to do, we will try to evaluate this integral minus infinity to plus infinity e to the power minus x plus ib whole square dx, where b is a real number. It can be greater than 0, less than 0. So we, for the timing, will choose b greater than 0. So I is integration minus infinity to plus infinity to the minus x plus ib whole square dx. We have to show that this is independent of b, and from there we have to deduce that integration minus infinity to plus infinity e to the power minus x square cos 2bx dx, that is equal to root over pi e to the power minus b square. Okay, so this is the result that we want to discuss, but before that we have to show that this integral, integration minus infinity to plus infinity e to the power minus x plus ib whole square dx is independent of b. So in order to prove this, let us take z equal to x plus ib and assume that b is greater than 0. You can also take b less than 0, just you have to choose a different contour in that case, that's all. Therefore, what you get from here, you get z equal to x plus ib, so e to the power minus z square dz, dx equal to dz. And integration is from minus infinity to plus I minus infinity plus ib to plus infinity plus ib. The function e to the power minus z square can be integrated along the contour shown in the figure below. So this is the contour that we will choose. So this is the rectangle from minus r to plus r, and then this is the height is b here. So this point is these are the points where imaginary part is ib. So this is the height b, and this is the minus r to plus r. So this is the rectangular contour that we will. So this is the contour along which e to the power minus z square will be integrated. And we know since e to the power minus z square is entire, so it doesn't have any singular points in the final extent. So it has no poles inside the contour. So the contour that you have chosen, since e to the power minus z square is entire, there is no poles inside the contour. Therefore, what we have to show, that not show. So we know that integration along this contour C, this is the C that I have considered. It's composed of C1, C2, C3, and C4. This way, the arrows are shown here. So that must, since there are no singularities, no poles inside the contour, so that is equal to 0, and that is the integration along C. On, so this is. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because my
Yes, sir.
there was some connectivity problem. Sorry. Okay, now you see that each integral along C1, C2, C3, C4, I just denote them as integration ck to the power minus z square dz. I denote them as jk. So k goes from 1 to 3, 4. So j1 is integration along C1 e to the power minus z square dz, and so on. J2, J3, J4. Now let us evaluate J2 first, mod of J2. Let's try to get an estimate of J2. What is J2? J2, remember, this is along C2. Okay. So C2, for C2 you can see that this is R. Okay, so x value is R. Along this is fixed, x is fixed. So this is R plus Iy. Y is changing along this line. And dz is of course I dy. So if you have to estimate this integral mod J2, integration along C2 e to the power minus z square dz, that is equal to 0 to b, because you see this the height is b and this is x to line. So it goes from 0 to b. Integration e to the power minus r plus, because z is r plus iy, z here is r plus iy, to the power minus r plus iy whole square, and dz is I dy. Dz is I dy. So this is I dy. And we have seen that according to this Garbo inequality that we have discussed already, so it is like less than equal to integration 0 to b mod of this quantity. So this you can expand the square. It's minus r square minus 2i ry plus y square and dy. So we are taking the mod here, remember. So I have just taken dy here, not the I. So that is equal to, you see that if you take the mod, it is e to the power minus r square plus y square, and then this is the phase part. So phase part will not appear. So e to the power minus r square is constant, comes out. So it is integration along 0 from 0 to b e to the power y square dy. Right? So mod of J2, integration along that vertical line, okay, at x equal to r. This is equal to this. And this y is real variable down here from 0 to b. So of course this is less than equal to e to the power minus r square e to the power b square times b, because you know that it is e to the power y square dy. So this is definitely, it is from 0 to b. So definitely, if you just think of it in terms of this area under the curve, as in the case of real integral, definitely this should be less than equal to b times e to the power b square. Right? The value of the function at b, and then the total length of the range. So this should be less than equal to this. So that means what? That means for fixed b, if you keep the b fixed, then in the limit r tending to infinity, j2 tends to 0. So j2 is like the integration along this. So in the limit if you keep the b fixed, in the limit r tending to infinity, because of this e to the power minus I r, e to the power minus r square, this goes to 0. So you can easily check that in the similar way j4 also tends to 0. Therefore, as r tending to infinity, we see that r tending to infinity meaning, so along this minus r to plus r, it becomes minus infinity to plus infinity. Here it is z equal to x, dz equal to dx, so e to the power minus z squared dz along this. And along this, it is plus infinity plus ib to minus infinity plus ib along this. Along this. And this is e to the power minus z square dz, right? From here. So e to the power minus z square dz along C1 and C3. C1 is this and C3 is this. The limit here is minus infinity to plus infinity as r tending to infinity, and here it is minus infinity plus ib, because this y is ib, to plus infinity plus infinity plus ib to minus infinity plus ib. That is equal to 0. Now, that means what? If you just, here you see that z equal to x plus ib. So if z goes from plus infinity plus ib to minus infinity plus ib, that means x goes from plus infinity to minus infinity. So that means this is equal to integration minus infinity to plus infinity to the power minus x squared dx, because here you see that z equal to x along this. So it is just real limit is just minus infinity to plus infinity. It's along the real line, minus x square plus dx. Plus this is integration minus infinity, plus infinity to minus infinity, because this is going along this direction. E to the power minus x plus ib whole square dx. And that is equal to 0, because this is the equation. 0 equal to this, and C2 and C4 vanish. So C1 plus C3 gives us this. And since this is, if you just take it this side and change the limit from minus infinity to plus infinity, what we get? We get integration minus infinity to plus infinity to the power minus x plus ib whole square dx equal to e to the power minus infinity to plus infinity to the power minus x square. So you see that this integration is independent of b, because you know that the result of this integration, it doesn't depend on b. So that we have put, and then the rest of the thing is straightforward. You have done it many times in your life, that you have to calculate now this quantity to the power minus infinity to plus infinity to the power minus x square dx, integration minus infinity to plus infinity. So this I can write it like this, and so that means this is equal to this I just change the dummy variable. It's here it is x, here it is y. So you can just combine. So it is like e to the power minus x square plus y square dx dy. And now if you go to the polar coordinate, so this gives us d of r square d theta divided by 2, because dx dy is dr d theta. So, and then x square plus y square is r square. And the limit goes from, r goes from 0 to infinity, because you go from the Cartesian to polar coordinate, xy to r theta. And theta goes from 0 to 2 pi. So this is integration 0 to 2 pi, integration 0 to infinity to the power minus r square dr square d theta. D theta will give you 2 pi. 2 pi half cancel gives you pi, and pi to the power this thing half is root pi is coming, and you know that this integration 0 to infinity to the power minus r square dr square, that gives you 1. So what we get? We get this integration with the power minus x square dx, that is equal to from minus infinity to plus infinity, that is equal to root pi. So that means this quantity e to the power minus x plus ib whole square dx along minus infinity to plus infinity, which is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity to the power minus x square dx, that is equal to root pi. So this is an important result that, so this is independent of b we have shown. Of course, you could have taken b less than 0, then you have to take this contour in the lower half plane and appropriately give your argument. Now, from 14.23, you can easily check that you can write this, you can expand the square. Okay. So, if you just expand the square, what you get? You get e to the power minus x square 2I dx, and then minus you get plus e to the power plus b square. So e to the power b square comes out. So you get e to the power integration minus infinity to plus infinity e to the power minus x square, and e to the power 2I dx, that will give you cos 2 dx minus 2I dx minus I sin 2 dx dx for the root pi. So just equating the real and the imaginary part, you can get the results. So if you equate the real part, what you get? You get integration e to the power minus infinity to plus infinity e to the power minus x square cos 2 dx dx, that is equal to root pi e to the power minus b square from this side. So this is another interesting result, important result that you can work out. Now there is some home assignment, standard techniques that we discussed today using the Jordan lemma. So these are the ones that you can do for your practice. And this is also this Gauss integral I have given. Okay. Now this Gauss integral I have written it in a bit different way, but I have given some hint. We have to make this perfect square and things like that. We use the same technique as discussed here just now. We have discussed, and however. I have given some hint that you have to take the contour in the lower half pen. I don't know why, just check why, and try to solve this together. 3 problems. So 2 problems here and 2 problems here. 1 problem. So these are the homework problem that you can do. Not now. Take your time. Try to solve them.
Sir, the question 2 comes in the harmonic oscillator problem, right, sir?
Oh, sorry.
For the path integral. So question 2, this is in the harmonic oscillator by the path integral report.
Yes. These are the ones you encountered quite often, right? And many times you're right. So you have to do all these things. I just showed you the general prescription of doing this. Okay, so now last, so you have some 15 minutes, I'm taking extra time. So last one example, let me just do it because that one needs to know. So this is the evaluation of an integral involving a multi-valued function. Okay. So let me just go through it. We'll go through it as slowly as possible, because we have some time. Just let me complete, because today is the last class. So let me just. And after this, I'll send you all the materials, homework problem. You can go through it, ask me questions, and also Shobhat, you can ask Shobhat and regarding the problems. And then, you know, what will happen is that I'll give you some extra material also. I'll tell you today what is the syllabus for your end sem exam, but I'll give you extra material for complex analysis part for your self-study, not part of the syllabus, but since it is there in the notes, I'll give it to you, go through it. Maybe it will be useful for your next semester courses. Yes, these are elements questions, not very rigorous, but I think we will get some flavor of what we can do. Now, we'll evaluate this integral involving a multi-valued function. So this integral will evaluate is integration 0 to infinity x to the power p minus 1 by x square plus 1 dx. Okay. This is the integration that we will evaluate. But p is between 0 and 2. Not equal to 1. So p is not equal to 1. It's between 0 and 2. And you can see, so remember that we discussed the function in the context of function, and discuss that the multivaluedness came from the multivaluedness of the argument. So here also again, this kind of function, the multivaluedness came from the multivaluedness of the argument. Like for example, z to the power half, it's a two-valued function, or z to the power 1/3 and things like that. So these are multivalued functions in the complex plane. You have seen, I had given you the notes regarding this complex power, so you know all these things. Because of the multivaluedness of the argument, there is a multivaluedness, and so that means there is a discontinuity along the branch cut, whatever branch you choose. Okay, branch cut you choose. That also discussed in the context of log function. It's equally valid here. So there is a discontinuity. So you choose the branch cut appropriately. And in the context of log function, I said that at z equal to 0 log is not defined, so that was the branch point. But in general, in the complex plane, when you say a branch point, it's essentially that if you make a complex in the complex plane, if there is a point and around which if you make a complete cycle, okay, and then if the value of the initial value of the function is not restored, if you make a complete circle around this point in the complex plane and the initial value of the function is not restored, then this point is called the branch point of the function. This is a more general way of defining the branch point of the function. Okay. So in this case, of course, you can see that in the this is also a multi-valued function in the context of, say, complex variable, let us consider. So it's a multi-valued function. P is between 0 and 2. It's not equal to 1. So it's a multi-valued function, and then naturally, if you, according to your choice of the branch cut, you know that there is a discontinuity. So let us try to see how we can discuss, evaluate this kind of real integral. As I said, that integrand has a branch point at x equal to 0. So if you take a complete circle around z equal to, so we will be essentially evaluating this kind of integral in order to evaluate this, okay, in the complex z to the power p minus 1 by z square plus 1 dz. I will discuss the contour very soon. Okay. Now, so let us consider the cart along the positive real axis. So that's what we will choose, positive real axis of the cart. So we will be discussing this. So since z to the power p minus 1 when p is between 0 and 2 and less than not equal to 1, we know that if you just take a complete circle around the z equal to 0, you, initial value of the function is not restored. You have seen complex power, you know that. So that means z equal to 0 is a branch point, and you take the positive real axis as the branch cut for this function. So we can also discuss log function, some integral discussed here using log function. Probably today we won't get time. You can go through them. Anyway, so what we have done, we want to evaluate this integral. C is the path. Okay, so the path we are taking is go along the straight line just above the real axis, just above, remember that, and go down this circle, and then go right line just below the real axis, and then go along this small circle of radius epsilon. So this large circle has radius r, small circle. So and then you complete the circle. So you never cross the singularity. You never cross the branch. Okay. So the function in this inside this contour and on this contour, this is single value. So this is the path that we will follow. So it consists of a small circle gamma of radius epsilon surrounding the branch point, of a large circle gamma of radius r that I have shown, and two straight lines L1 and L2, L1 and L2, two straight lines lying respectively just above and just below the branch point. That is the way we have to do it. Limiting sense. This is above and just below. The contour, of course, you can see as we have shown here, it's like this. The does not cross the cut. It avoids that. And the integrand is reported. So this is the integrand that is within this contour. So there remains to choose a particular branch of the function, and as I have mentioned, we choose the branch of the function z to the power p minus 1. Is this. So it's between theta is between 0 and 2 pi. So we consider the real axis as the branch of the function. P minus 1 is not z to the power p minus 1 e to the power p theta, and we have chosen theta between 0 and 2 pi. So theta between 0 and 2 pi meaning we have taken positive, non-positive real axis as the branch cut. So we have specified everything properly, and we can now proceed with the evaluation of this integral I prime. We will first show that the circles gamma and gamma do not contribute to I prime, as epsilon tending to 0 and r tending to infinity. So the small circle and the large circle, they will not contribute. So the dimension of either one of the circle, because either it is epsilon e to the power I theta or it is small r e to the power I theta. I just, for both of them I use rho e to the power I theta. Then what you get, integration along gamma or gamma, small gamma or capital gamma, z to the power p minus 1 by z square plus 1 dz. That will be what? That will be rho to the power minus 1 e to the power I p minus 1. So mod z is rho of course, pi minus 1 theta, and dz is I rho e to the power I theta d theta divided by rho square e to the power 1 theta plus. And thus you can see from here, when rho tending to 0, rho tending to just come to small circle here, tending to 0. So I have done a, common thing I have chosen using this rho. Okay. So when rho is epsilon tending to 0, and when rho is small tending to infinity, the large, you can from here looking at the, remember that p is between 0 and 2 and p is not equal to 1, and there is a rho 1 here also, and this is rho square. So as rho tending, again this is 0, and when rho tending to 0, this is also again rho to 0. So both small circle and large circle, they won't contribute. So there remains the evaluation of the contribution from the straight lines L1 and L2. So because a branch cut separates L1 from L2, the value of the integrand along these lines will not be the same, right? Because that is. So along z equal to x, L1 z equal to x. So L1 is this line, theta equal to 0, essentially just above the x-axis, non-positive real axis. And here it is theta equal to 2 pi. So when z along L1, we can choose z equal to x just on the real axis. Okay. Therefore, z to the power p minus 1 is just x to the power p minus 1. However, along L2, we have taken a complete circle here along L2. So along L2, you know, z equal to x e to the power 2 pi I, because we have taken a complete circle. Therefore, to the power p minus 1 is x to the power p minus 1 e to the power I 2 pi p minus 1 along L2. So as epsilon tending to 0 and r tending to infinity, what we have? We have this integral along the entire contour is equal to integration 0 to infinity, because this is the only along the L1 and L2 survive, along L1 and L2. So this is this goes from 0 to infinity when r goes to infinity. Okay, and s is 0, and so this is what I have shown here. So this is 0 to infinity. I have taken a minus sign because here it infinity to 0. So I have changed the sign, that minus sign here. So I have taken only 0 to infinity. So x to the power p minus 1 minus x to the p minus 1 e to the power I 2p 2 pi minus 1. And x to the power p minus 1 along L1, x to the power p minus 1 is this, z to the power p minus 1 is this along L2. So I have just combined using this minus sign, changing the limit of the integration. Divide times 1 by x square plus 1 dx. Remember, this was our 1 by z square plus 1. So the real line is 1 by x square plus 1 dx. Now, if you just take this this factor x to the power p minus 1 inside here, then you are left with 1 minus e to the power I 2 pi p minus 1. So you can write it as e to the power I pi p minus 1 times here it is 1, so it will be e to the power minus I pi p minus 1, and here it is e to the power 2 pi I p minus 1, it will be I pi p minus 1. This is very simple. And this will give you a sign factor here, sin I p minus 1 with some minus 2i, etc. This is equal to integration 0 to infinity this. So you just do the sign, etc., take care of all the signs I, etc. So you will get this factor here, 2i to the power I pi p minus 1 sin pi p. That is equal to 0 to infinity x to the power p minus 1 divided by x square plus 1 dx. Now, the contour integral in 15.5 here, you see in 15.5, the contour integral, okay, this one. This is what, this you know that this is equal to, because this z square plus 1 here, z square plus 1 here, okay, 1 here, this has pole at z equal to plus minus I. So this function here, so this has branch cut we have discussed, but this has also pole at plus minus I. So the and contour here, okay. So this whole line, they are there the contour. the result of integration it will become the residue at the of the integrants at z equal to plus. Now both are inside this contour that we have taken, okay, p and minus I. So you have to calculate the residue. Now we know we have taken the branch 0 to theta between 0 and 2 pi. So I to the power p minus 1 is e to the power I pi p minus 1 by 2, and minus I to the power p minus I 1 will be e to the power I 3 pi by 2 p minus 2. So this is straightforward. And if this is a thing, you can easily calculate the residue. Okay. Z equal to plus I and z equal to minus I. So when z equal to plus I, it will be I to the power p minus 1, z equal to minus I, it will be minus I to the power p minus 1. And in the denominator, there will be factor of 2y and things like that. So this 2y factor. These are residue. And I to the power p minus 1 is this, I to the power minus I to the power p minus 1 is this. So this means 2 pi I times this one, sum of the two residues. Now this we saw that this quantity is equal to this quantity, this quantity. That means what? This entire quantity that is equal to this quantity. And if you just do some simplification, you can easily use see that using this result of 15. $16.5. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We could hear you.
Yes, sir.
There was some problem with the connectivity, yeah. But yeah, can you see the slides now? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So using this result, this 15.6, the right hand side, if you just equate, and 15.5. If you go through the notes as I have described here, it's very straightforward, no detailed, complicated this thing, algebra, but you have to think about the branch cut, etc. appropriately and choose the contour. So you can get the result that for a multivalued function, this is given by this contour. Okay. So this is one way of doing this multivalued function. I chose only this type of contour. And so I will stop here, but let me just tell you two more things. Which I will not describe, but there is also this thing that in integrals of rational functions you can do in the limit 0 to infinity. Of course, as you can see, I am choosing the rational functions such that they are, this integral is not symmetric, so then it's straightforward. But if it's symmetric, then what I mean is that this is odd. Okay, not if it is even, then it's straightforward. If it is odd, then it's not that straightforward. In that case, you can do this multivalued function integration and find the result of this integration. This is described in this problem. Please go through this problem. It is described in all details, so there should not be any problem here. Same contour I have chosen here, the one I discussed. So there should not be any problem in getting. Algebra is a little bit more involved, so you have to do this. And log, you have to choose the branch cut along the positive real axis, and the rest of the thing is very clear. So there should not be any problem. So you can also look at this kind of function, okay, that integration 0 to infinity dx by 1 plus x cube. So this you have to remember. Okay. As I said, that it's not an even function. So naturally, if it is even function, you could do as you did in the case of rational function integration earlier, and just take this half of minus infinity to plus infinity. But that you cannot do here because it's an odd function here of x. So you have to do this techniques of this branch cut that we discussed. So this is another one involving log, and then there is another example involving a log function here. Okay, so here by ln I mean real logarithm. Okay, I have changed the notation from capital L O G to ln. So So this is again you can do using the same contour. So these are the contours. Hello. These are the contours that I discussed actually. So this one, and just check one example of this evaluation of integrals exponential form. This is again the one I discussed for Gaussian integral, very similar to that. So it should not be a problem. So this is going to be the syllabus for your end sem exam, because I'll stop here because I don't want to go beyond this. So I'll supply you notes for end sem exam up to this. So I discussed almost all the things, the essential things. Whichever I could not discuss, they are very similar. So if you go through it, it should not be a problem. And since you have some time before the exam, you should be able to do. Summation, I won't do. I will supply the notes to you for your self-study. If you want to learn about this in detail, everything is given in detail. So there should not be problem. If the problem, just to me. And after the summation, I just speak a bit about analytic continuity, very preliminary discussion. Again, you go through it for your self-study, not included in. Oh, what happened? Oh, someone wants to join. Orkumitra, sorry, I didn't realize that you were trying to join. So this analytic continuation for self-study, you can go through it, and then some more discussion on multivariate function and Riemann surface without drawing any diagram, because I could not draw the diagram. These are difficult diagrams to draw, but some discussion is there again for your self-study. So this is what I will supply, but let me again reiterate your this thing. Syllabus for end sem exam is this. Before the summation of infinites is up to this. Okay, so whatever examples we have done here, go through it, and some homework problem I will give you, which are written probably somewhere here. Yeah. So some homework problem using the techniques that we develop. You can look at one or two problems. So from here that I will give. That's all. But syllabus is this. And someone asked me about this, the syllabus for mid-sem, whether it will be there in the end-sem exam. So what do you want? Shall I keep it or shall I not keep it? Hello.
If not, then most of the part will be from complex analysis and Lie algebra.
Complex analysis and Lie algebra, let me tell you, it will be a 50 marks question. 50 marks question, let me keep 5 marks from the mid-sem syllabus. Okay? Only 5 marks.
Sir.
Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, so then it's fine.
Yeah, 5 marks from mid-sem exam, 45 marks will be from end-sem, and 20 marks, this is approximate and tentative planning, okay. 20 marks will be from Lie group Lie algebra, and 25 marks will be from complex analysis, or vice versa. Okay,
Sir, but for that before mid-sem part, there is a youth group theory, and before, for example, irreducible representation, orthonormality conditions, then those parts are held.
Let me tell you, Akshay, let me tell you. As I said before the mid-sem exam, again I am telling you, no theorems will be there. Okay? So there will be no theorem that I will ask you to prove or something like that. No big theorems. Only the results and some applications of the results. Okay. And
still we have to read those things again, na? Means in order
it is good. It is good. If you read it once again, it's not bad. It's good for you. You will remember the thing. Okay. So, but if you don't want, then I will just remove it from the syllabus. Tell me.
5 marks is okay.
5 marks is okay.
Yes, sir.
If
Sir, after the mid-sem examination, no theorem.
No theorem will be asked in the question. Okay, no theorem. Okay. Even after the mid-sem exam, no theorem. No theorem from complex analysis. No theorem from Lie group Lie algebra. Okay.
Only sir, the problems. The
problems and application of the theorems and things like that.
okay, sir.
So
And for
something like that.
before midsem, five
You
marks.
have to know the theorems. 5 marks, maybe, yeah, 5 marks, yeah, not more than that. Like very
Excuse me,
simple
sir.
things I like. Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, if it's just 5 marks, then could you please not keep it instead? I mean, it's just 5 marks. You could allocate those to Lie groups or complex. I mean, then we can study this part for the exam with both.
Yes, sir. So we can focus on Lie groups and only on complex group because complex and it's big, sir.
True.
Yes, sir.
Both the parts are big, so it's better.
Okay, let me just reduce the syllabus from the mid-semester exam little bit. Some results from group theory, okay, not the representation. Maybe some results from group theory. I want 5 marks question. Let me give. So, like for example, let me give you example. Like say for example, say some problem related to cosets. Okay, or some problem related to conjugacy class.
Sir,
Is that okay?
so okay, it will be fine, but sir, the point is, mathematics students will be.
If you just, I'm coming to that, Akshay. If you just remember the definition of conjugacy class or definition of coset, you should be able to solve the problem. Okay, that's all. You have to just remember the definition of conjugacy class and coset. Because it's good to revise, maybe, I don't know. Because you did appeared for the mid-sem exam, you studied all the things. But I'm a bit confused now.
Sir, the point is,
What is the majority? What is the majority saying?
I think a bit of group theory is okay. If if representation theory is not there, then group theory is okay.
sir, the point is there is an issue, means for mathematician group theories are trivial to do, but for us,
Absolutely.
for us group theory means okay, we know things, but we still have to work very hard to means to keep the pace. So I don't know, sir.
Doing something from the midterm syllabus will be better. That way we will be able to revise it, and then I think we will have more confidence in what we have learned.
I was just thinking about that. I mean, in that direction actually. At least little bit you can revise. I mean, I reduced it. I mean, I am not asking anything from the representation theory, just group theory, and 5
Yes,
marks only.
I think yes, to keep something.